recording button. That way, again, because I'm also going to be posting this. Oh, you have to go. No. Damn it. Damn it. Come on. Tell me, what you tell me, what do you like? Like, because I've got no other viewers. Then I'm going to just have to wait and sing to myself again. I support, if you're still here, let's say I support basic income. I support having a direct democracy with like they have in like Switzerland and California, with like initiatives and stuff. Like, yeah, see, I can tell you my policy. I can't tell you like the name of the thing because it's you know, it's my own set of policies. If you want, I don't know, like I don't support minimum wage if there's a basic income, but otherwise I do, but like I'd rather have basic income. I actually don't support like free tertiary education because it's unfair on those who don't have tertiary education. It's uneducated people that have to fund educated people. But you know, I support, on the other hand, making, you know, that kind of education more accessible by like eliminating, you know, excessive, you know, rises in costs. Healthcare, I do support like a sort of universal healthcare that's paid for through taxes, because I just think it's the most, like just what's necessary to keep you alive, and I think everybody should have a right to that, no matter how rich or poor you are. So it shouldn't really be something that you pay out of your own pocket. You mean that I've seen that political? Do you want me to do it right now? I've already done it. I can tell you the results if you want. I can do it again. I can tell me. You tell me where you are in the political compass test. Also, is it that thing where there's like two axes, which is one is like on the left it's left, on the right is right, and then on the top there's like authoritarian, on the bottom it's like libertarian. Is that what you're talking about? Because I've seen that was a pretty popular thing that's been coming up recently. Compass test. I don't really like that test because I don't like the test because I feel that many of the questions, it's not asking you about an opinion, it's just asking you what's like true or false, and as a result, if you're like just a person who isn't completely crazy, you're gonna answer the same thing irrespectively of like your opinions. And that's why I actually did the test. I didn't like it. If you want, we can do it together. That way I can just comment the things. I got in the same quadrant as Gandhi. Yeah, I was right in the middle of the lower left quadrant. So I wasn't at the extreme, but I was like halfway between the center to the extreme of the lower left quadrant. Well, yeah, well, it's not even, I wouldn't even say it's that. It's that I'd rather it ask me like actual policy questions, you know. I'd rather ask it like, do you support like a specific like tax policy or something, you know, something like that, rather than, you know, these sort of basic questions that are sort of very sort of subject to interpretation. Are you seeing it right now? Yeah, you should be seeing it, right? So, okay, if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. And actually, what I was watching is, I remember watching Hassan's like video on commentating like Ben Shapiro doing this, and like I remember Ben, and he was actually complaining about this, and I like overall I hate Ben Shapiro, but like I actually sometimes I agreed with Ben's criticism of some of these questions, and like here I don't like this question already, because like I don't like to think that like corporations are necessarily like the interests of the corporations are not necessarily opposed to the interest of the people. And again, that could bring me to like my tax policy. So if you really want to know what I believe in, just go see my website, see my latest video, and you'll get a good idea of my economic policy. If you just, not my website, my link to my YouTube channel. If you really want to know, but it'll take quite a bit of time. But like I'm actually pro-business. Like I'm not at all like socialist. I'm pro-business, but I'm also pro-high taxation, but only individuals. So I actually want to have a 0% corporate tax, but a very high personal. I would like all taxation to be based on personal income tax, and I'd like to have very high taxation to be able to fund a very solid basic income. But I think that, corporations, like, free enterprise and all that is, yes, is useful because it's like productivity, and productivity then goes to people in the form of material wealth. So agree, because obviously, like, per se, we don't care about the corporations. But I won't say strongly agree, because at the same time, I think that it can be a win-win situation. So I'm being very slow with this, but see, I don't think there's much point. I don't think there's much point in just zipping through it. I think it's more interesting to have a discussion around each question. But of course, like, if you get bored, you can leave, right? But and also, if you want to discuss like a specific subject or something, just tell me, because I've got like opinions on all sorts of issues, lots of them quite controversial, lots of them that could also seem like bizarrely kind of right-wing, but yeah, you just ask me. I'd always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. And so here I strongly disagree. So that brings me to another thing, which I'm not just strongly, I'm like completely anti-nationalist, to the extent that I actually, I just consider any sort of nationalism, like even the sort of mainstream media who says like, oh, we got to, improve our economy to like beat China and stuff like that, and I utterly disagree with that, because I hate actually competition between countries. I mean, I like, economic competition in terms of like between businesses, just to create like better products, but I don't like rivalry between actual countries, because we should be wanting to improve conditions for all countries equally. And like, if you believe in equality between people, well, you should believe in equality between all people equally, which means that you should actually just favor completely equal conditions in all places. So I actually advocate for total globalism. I advocate for single currency, like, like the euro they did in Europe, but just have it everywhere, and a single, single basic income, single tax scale, and of course you need like a single, to a certain extent, a single government. That would have to be, you'd have to be careful not to like have a risk of excessive power, because it would become even more problematic, of course, if there's just one. But yeah, and well, I'm surprised that nobody else is advocating for that, and I'm really hoping that like I could like get a few people to agree with me that this is a good idea. Okay, let's see. Okay, so fuck nationalism, thank you. No one chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Again, well, you could be proud of like what people have done. I'll strongly agree. You could be proud of, achievements of people in the country, but again, I'm anti-nationalist, so again, I'll just put strongly agree for this. Even though, of course, every country like has done good things. But I think that, this is the spirit of the question, I think. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. So again, here is where I can be fine. You'll find me like surprisingly maybe a bit right-wing, in the sense that I would put, I'm not going to put strongly disagree, I'll put disagree. Why do I say, again, just to be in the spirit of the thing, like for instance, there's this idea that there's no racial difference at all, and right-wingers often say, well, there are some differences, and left-wingers say that they aren't. And I would say that it's actually probable that there are some differences, because like we know that there are physical differences, like we see that in athletics, where certain races are more successful at certain sports. And well, for instance, between dog races, we know that there are differences in like intelligence and temperament, even despite very close genetic relatedness. So I think it could be, I think it would be actually surprising that there would be no like mean differences between races. And so in that sense, I think, I'm really just trying to be objective here. I don't believe at all in like differential treatment based on race, but which is what you'd call racism. But I'm not just gonna deny the potential existence of differences between races just because it sounds preferable. And so one thing I actually believe in is, which also can seem surprising, is eugenics, but of course not in the Nazi fashion, but more like what you call transhumanism. and again, not through in a sort of weird sci-fi kind of way, but more about like firstly editing out like congenital diseases, and but beyond that also like eliminating aging and also eliminating like things like character flaws. I think overall nowadays people have a tendency towards things like violence and aggressiveness and like nationalism. I think that actually is partly like genetically determined and like in just more generally like irrationality. Um, and and I think that those traits are problematic, and I think that we can to some extent eliminate them with genetic engineering, and I think it's also possible that some races might have more or less of those negative traits compared to others. Um, let's see. Oh, there's been a lot of comments since then. You bitch ass. People who advocate it will never be voted in power. Okay, this goofy motherfucker really thinks taking his dumbass test on a stream is still content in 2021. Well, I agree that the test is dumb, and yeah, you told me to take it. I mean, it's not super dumb. It's it still gives you an idea, but lots of the questions are like too basic, which is why I don't really like them. Held a message. So David IG, why automod? Okay, I'll allow it. Why? Oh, the streamer sucks the dong. For some reason, we're getting lots of like rude comments on, like, you got lots of weirdos on this Twitch thing, unfortunately. We're discussing about his politics. You are a 14-year-old mate. Y'all sound mad gay. I'm out. This is where I disagree, Nathan. I have to leave. Now bye-bye. The Nathan out permitted term. He's a gay ass. It's boring and he's a gay ass. Jesus. So is there anybody here? Is either David G thing or Dark Blue Alpha? And see, this is the problem, is that you get like nobody. Why is there anybody here? See, like I basically say a tiny bit of like race things, and like this is just being realistic. There is such a thing as race realism, but it's not even race realism. It's more like biological realism. For some reason, the left likes to just ignore biology if it doesn't fit their ideology, which is ridiculous. And this is a problem. This is why the left has so little traction overall, is because precisely it's denying some things. And so if instead of just listening and trying to follow the argumentation, then instead you just like deny and you leave. And now both people have left, and now what do I do? See, I've got no viewers, and I'm just stuck here in my stream. So I'm just gonna keep on streaming anyway. I think it's good to keep the comments just to sort of to give an idea of the ridiculousness of all these commentators. So I'm gonna pretend that somebody's watching. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So again, I'll just write disagree. This is sort of this is not like really interesting for me. I don't really know what that even means. I mean, I can probably guess, but I'm not really interested in trying to like tease it out. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Again, I don't like this question because like I don't believe in international law. I believe in universal law, and like in my way of seeing things, I believe in just having one global state, and there would be no military action, but it wouldn't defy international law. So like I don't even know what to write here. So I'll write disagree because that's in the spirit of the thing. There's now warring fusion of information and entertainment. What should I say? Disagree, agree, agree. Yeah, I agree. I won't say strongly agree, but yeah, I agree. Like lots of people just get sort of sucked into, but there's always been that, but people just get, sucked into, like sometimes, on TV you'll have these completely crazy, like, or, on more like the internet, crazy conspiracy theories that aren't even meant to be taken seriously, but people think that it's meant to be taken seriously. Nobody's watching. Damn it. people are ultimately divided more by class than nationality. Unfortunately, I'd say in practice, I mean, if people were more rational, they would recognize that that is sort of something that makes more sense. But in their mindset, of course, there's more division between nationality. So I'm going to say disagree. But again, see, this is stupid because this is just about recognizing what's the case, so this wouldn't change your political compass at all. See, this is why it's stupid, and like, I don't want to do all these questions, but it's probably still useful so that people get an idea about my ideology, and so at least this will be done once, you know. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. It would be nice to have just people watching. Jesus, I'm left with a stupid comment. It's boring and he's a gay ass. Why is there like so much like rudeness and homophobia, and why is this like half my commentators? And then meanwhile you get like these lefties who are like hypersensitive when you just like talk realistically, you know. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Again, this is like, I don't even know what to say about this, because basically, if you say yes, that means that you're normally a right-winger, but I don't care at all about unemployment because I want to give a basic income. And meanwhile, I don't like inflation because inflation, you know, I mean, you'd have to have a basic income that really properly tracks inflation all the time, which is what I want. But I mean, if you don't have that, then inflation is going to make the average person poorer often. I mean, it sort of, you know, it depends, but so I actually think that controlling inflation is more important, but just because I like to have a sort of, you know, a certain amount of economic stability, and I don't care about unemployment because I want basic income. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Yeah, basically, there's some things that are just don't have like economic worth, but they do have like fundamental worth. Like what I think about is like the biggest issue is actually agriculture. I mean, the biggest, you know, environmental destroyer is actually the destruction of habitats for agriculture. And, you know, like now you have like big agri companies like destroying vast swaths of habitat for that. And like they don't really have much incentive to not do it. So they need to be regulated, so strongly agree. From each according to his ability, to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. So basically, if I say yes, this means I'm a Marxist, so like, overall, I agree, but I also think it's according not so much to his ability, but to his desire. See, I think you should be, and pretty much everyone has the same needs, see. So overall, I'm going to say agree, but I think it should be more based, like, if you don't want to do anything, then you just don't do it. But overall, this is, you know, the idea of fairness, and I believe in fairness. So overall, I'm going to say agree, even though I don't really want a society that's based on that idea. The freer the market, the freer the people. Again, I don't know what to say, because, like, do I overall believe in free markets? Yes, but do I believe in unlimited free markets? No. Like, I'm gonna write disagree, but again, it's a really dumb question. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. Again, no, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can still like drink tap water, and it's fine if people want that thing. It's because it's like superior quality water. I mean, how else? I mean, you've got tap water already, so no, it's not. I'm going to say disagree with that. Like, it's okay. Like, if obviously there's a demand for this, so it's not a sad reflection. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Yeah, but how are you going to distribute it? If I mean, I think people like having their own private place, and you know, then if you have a business, you also need land for it. So, like the only thing I could imagine is that land could be owned by the government and then just leased out to people. But like, how are you? then it's still kind of equivalent to that. So I'm going to say disagree. I think overall I'm okay with the issue, and I think it just works. It works better. It's just more practical to have it done like that. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Agree. Well, yeah. Again, I don't believe in making strong personal fortunes, and I don't believe, yeah, and exactly, I don't really believe in like excessively. I mean, to some extent, investment is useful because it actually sort of helps, the economy work. But it is, I mean, the amount of money that you receive in exchange for that is not what you deserve to earn, and which is why I advocate for a maximum income and a maximum cap on wealth. So overall, I agree. Yes, I think how much you earn should be a reflection of how much you deserve to earn, how well and how hard you worked. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Not gonna overall, no. Again, I think protectionism is, again, I just believe in complete globalism. And so basically, no, I'm just going to write strong. I mean, probably in some instances it might be beneficial for like a society to do so, but like at the same time, like what it does is that simply, if you're going to have, what it does protectionism means, it means to have tariffs on importations, but then what actually matters is your GDP. So by having tariffs on importations, you're going to be just limiting the amount of goods. So okay, by limiting the amount of goods flowing into your country, you might be able to make your own industry more competitive. So I'm going to say disagree, but it's, again, just so stupid. So again, what's interesting is just my discussion on this and not the answer to the question, because I hate these questions. It has no bearing on like what a person's political compass might be. The only social responsibility of a company should be, and I'm gonna erase this because this is stupid. Clear chat. Okay. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Like, I don't believe that a company should be responsible to provide a livelihood to people. On the other hand, I do believe that, it should be responsible to at least not harm, the environment and stuff, so I'll say disagree. The rich are too highly taxed. Nope. Strongly disagree. Again, I want just a maximum cap on income of 150,000 US dollars a year after tax and 15 million in wealth. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Yeah, I mean, it depends what you mean by higher standards, but like I believe in universal healthcare, but I agree that typically what that's going to do is going to lead to like certain amount of like waiting and stuff, like suboptimal healthcare. Like, it depends what you mean by higher standards. Like if you want like some sort of frivolous thing like plastic surgery, or like, and it's not necessarily frivolous either. I mean, it can really like help people. I mean, and often it's just reconstructive also. But like, what I mean is like sort of unnecessary procedures, and also, I don't know, if you want like to do like some alternative medicine or something, but is that a higher standard? I don't know. I mean, I sort of agree that if you pay more, you should be able to have extra stuff that isn't covered by like a universal coverage that I would support. Right, disagree, but like, obviously it depends on what you mean exactly by that. Government, again, I wish they'd have actual policies rather than just these empty things like that. Actual specific policies. Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Yeah, yeah. Well, what does it mean by mislead? Um, I mean, yeah. If you actually, I mean, you shouldn't be allowed to make false promotions. But the problem is that then it's gonna put me like a sort of, like, who doesn't believe in this, That's what I'm saying. Who thinks that companies should just be allowed to lie? Like, I'll strongly agree, but again, that's just a dumb question. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Again, I don't like the wording. It's, again, excessively like anti-business. But I agree. I agree that I'm anti-monopoly, so yes. But it's too anti-business. Abortion, where the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Well, I agree that abortion is a bit, it makes me, uncomfortable because obviously, like, it's somebody that could become like a full human, and that you're making that no longer happen. But I still think that overall, as long as it's just really still very like limited primitive organism. So I think we're still limiting more suffering by allowing abortion. Because if you like forbid abortion and have all babies be born, then that baby might be unwanted, might have a terrible life. So overall I still support abortion, but with obviously not as it's not something that I'm incredibly comfortable with, obviously, but I still support it. So I'm going to say should, and especially always be illegal. So no, so I strongly disagree. They should always be illegal when the woman's lives are not threatened. Like, for instance, there's like a birth from like rape and stuff. So like obviously, like, if there's conception through rape, I would especially support that. So strongly disagree. And like in general, like there's so many, it's so easy to just become pregnant if you don't want, you didn't intend to. So like, yeah, strongly disagree. All authorities should be questioned. Well, yeah, of course. Like, but who doesn't believe in that? So yeah, strongly agree. But again, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Kind of believe in justice, but I don't really believe in retribution and revenge. I think if something bad's been done, what the purpose is more to prevent from further bad being done. So overall, I'll say I disagree. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. Again, I'll say, I mean, I agree that overall, that the kind of stuff should, survive. In any case, museums, like, it's probably not all that costly to have a museum, right? Because then you just, like, can keep stuff, just sort of showcase stuff and just leave them like that. You don't need to have always, like, magical exhibitions that cost a lot. But still, I think, I overall support, like, more promotion of, like, culture and stuff like that. So, overall, I'm still gonna say, like, disagree. I think I support some amount of, government support for that kind of stuff. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I think everyone should have education. So, I guess what they mean is versus homeschooling. Yeah, look, I don't even know what they mean. Overall, I support education for children, so I'll say strongly disagree. All people have their rights, but it's better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep their own kind. That would be like the sort of classic Nazi mindset, so strongly disagree. And when I say Nazi, I just mean any sort of nationalist, including, all these sort of, yeah, just this sort of nationalist people. No, strongly disagree. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Probably better. You can probably just yell at them really loudly. Overall, I don't really like the idea of, physical violence. So, right, strongly disagree, but probably some few terrible children that probably would benefit from it. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Yeah, sure. Like, you don't have to talk about everything. Especially like there's some, like your social relationships and stuff. Especially like, you got a crush on someone or something like that. You're not gonna tell that to your parents necessarily. I'll say strongly agree. This is sort of moral, yeah. I don't think I want children to sort of have a bit of autonomy. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. So, that's something I haven't actually covered in my videos. So I'm actually anti-drug, but I'm also anti-making drugs illegal. So, and there's still nobody here, is there? Still nobody here. It's weird that when people leave a chat, then like there's nobody else that ever comes back. That's sort of how it works. So I'm actually gonna, you know what? I'm gonna stop it. I'm gonna stop it and restart it. Like, I know that marijuana provides like symptomatic relief, but I think it's at the expense of a sort of more fundamental health, like the so-called like terrain and stuff. I do believe in that concept of terrain, and I think that marijuana is actually very harmful for the terrain and just for overall like well-being. So I'm very much opposed to marijuana consumption, but I think it should be strongly discouraged. But I do not think um, it should be criminalized at all, because again, it's your choice, right? So I mean, I'm going to believe in personal freedom. So strongly agree. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. I fully disagree. I don't believe in jobism. I don't believe that people should need to have jobs. And I think that schooling should be about making people smarter and wiser. So strongly disagree. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Um, I actually agree with that because again, I believe in eugenics. I think it's I think you should. I mean, if you could reproduce, but only if we can like edit your disabilities out, like through CRISPR or something, you know. So, but the thing is, I also think just nobody should be allowed to reproduce once we have that technology, because everybody has like serious inheritable disabilities, because most people are idiots, and that unfortunately is an inheritable disability. So yeah, strongly agree. I'm a eugenicist. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Nah, I don't think discipline. What the most important thing to learn is to learn rationality. So strongly disagree. I mean, sure, it's. I mean, I believe in discipline. I believe in orderliness. You know, I believe in orderliness, but orderliness should stem from rationality, not just from obedience. You know, it's not accept discipline. You should question it and then do it if you recognize that it's right. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. Um, no, I, like I say, my whole ideology is like based, like one of the fundamental tenets is that there definitely are savages, and that pretty much all cultures are still savage cultures. So I strongly disagree. I want to create a properly civilized culture. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Strongly disagree because I support basic income, like I've explained before. When you're troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Sort of depends. I think you shouldn't dwell on it just for its own sake. I think if you've got issues that need to be, like, there's something that can be, like, addressed, then you should try to address it. And you shouldn't try to, like, put it under the rug. So overall, I'm going to say disagree. But I also agree that you shouldn't just keep on thinking about it if you're not actually going to, like, do something about it. First-generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within the new country. To be honest, I often don't like first-generation immigrants, or like second or third. Like, they're often idiots. I agree, but that's more because A, their own culture is idiotic, and B, the immigrant culture that they then adopt because they're like surrounded with these other immigrants is also idiotic, and like they just sort of feed each other. But like like who thinks that no first generation immigrant can be fully integrated? Like even like ultra right wingers, I bet think that some immigrants can be properly integrated. So like yeah, strongly disagree. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. Again, this is stupid because I'm not anti-corporation, you see. I'm not anti-corporation. And I hate this always, you know. Well, of course, it's not always ultimately good for all of us. But I would say that overall, like, I support corporations, but obviously it's not always, so I'm going to say disagree, but again, I'm going to seem too anti-corporation, and overall, that's not what I am. I'm not anti-corporation. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Overall, I think it's good to have publicly funded broadcasting, but it's hard to know because then, like, how does the public decide, like, what's going to be a publicly funded institution and not? You know, how do we? Who knows? All right, disagree, but I've been sort of trying to come up with an opinion for that, and I still don't really have a strong opinion on that. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Still got 0 viewers, damn it. I don't think it's doing all that much, but overall I'm against like all these practices of espionage for counterterrorism. So overall I'll say I agree. That being said, of course I also oppose like religious terrorism. A significant advantage of one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Well, it's kind of true. It's kind of true. I mean, it doesn't mean I support a one-party state. But see, this is the problem, is that this is nothing about your ideology. I mean, you can recognize this and still be completely opposed to a one-party state, and actually that's what I am, and that's why I'm saying agree. So again, it's silly. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Overall, I disagree because but again, like, what does it mean? Because, like, overall, I do support, like, having surveillance, and but it would be in the context of a society that's really just much more, rational and omnibenevolent, and so then that would be true. So in the sort of theoretical world, I would say agree, but in the current situation, I say disagree. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. I mean, some people, like, are really horrible, but the thing is that when you think about it, like, just voting for, like, horrible things like, Nazism and stuff is also horrible, but that means that we should just, like, put most people to death. Like, I've been thinking about this, like, literally, if you wanted to, if you wanted to kill all people to at least indirectly had done horrible things, then you'd have to kill almost everyone. So, we're not going to do that, so strongly disagree. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Like, I agree that it's useful to have, like, a boss or something in like, in a company. It's useful to have, like, superiors and a bit of a hierarchy. And it's also useful to have, like, elected officials who decide, but overall, I support a more egalitarian structure, so I'll say disagree. Abstract art doesn't represent anything at all, should be considered art at all. What's that about? That's just being someone who just, I mean, I've already seen this, but it's sort of funny. Now, what I do think, we should make a distinction between, like, aesthetic art and conceptual art. I think those are two separate things, and I think it's a mistake to, like, try to make conceptual art take, like, the place of aesthetic art, and, like, try to put, like, conceptual art in places where, you want to, like, increase the aesthetic value. Like, you shouldn't install conceptual art somewhere where you're aiming for aesthetic value. And that's sort of a mistake with these modern sort of hippie type people, is that they sort of often don't properly make that distinction between conceptual art and aesthetic art. But still, I'm going to say this isn't even that. This is just abstract art. So I'll say, do I say strongly disagree? Yeah, it doesn't have to represent. I'll say strongly. What the heck? In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Well, punishment is useful to, because that way, strikes fear in the heart of other would-be criminals. I don't know if it's more important. I'll say disagree because rehabilitation is also important, but, like, obviously both are important. It's a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals, but then you say some, so that means at that point, if you have any criminal, that won't, like, respond. So overall, I'll say disagree because most criminals, I think, would benefit from it. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. No, writers are important. Like, that's all. This is silly. Like, it's all. Artists are important, but I'll say just disagree. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. I don't like that dichotomy again because I'm anti-jobist. I'm anti just saying that women have to be homemakers. I'll say disagree. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant generic resources of developing countries. Genetic resources. I mean, they are a bit, but again, I'm not. Yeah, because they're doing that crappy stuff of like making like seeds not being able to be resown. So like, I'll agree, but at the same time, they're also doing useful things. You know, you got like golden rice with your vitamin A. It's like, it's not all good or bad. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Nah, strongly. If the establishment is bad, you should just absolutely fight it, and that's what I intend to do. So, strongly disagree. Astrology accurately explains many things. No. Again, actually, I do believe in supernatural phenomena. I believe that sometimes you might have some things that happen and that are like corroborated by astrology, and that it does happen through supernatural mechanism, but it's not through actual, just inherently through astrology, but it's this Gorth, which is this supernatural artificial intelligence that's making it happen to make you believe in astrology. So, strongly disagree. You cannot be moral without religious. So, yeah, I already saw that. So, I made a video saying you cannot be moral if you are religious. So, obviously, so just watch the video if you want the whole argumentation. The gist is that especially like Yahwehism is like the most immoral thing you can imagine, because the god literally subjects conscious beings to infinite suffering. So it's like the god Yahweh of Yahwehism is infinitely evil. So obviously you cannot be moral if you worship that god. And more generally, any religion is irrational. And if you believe in something irrational, that means that you also can't rationally distinguish what is good from what is evil. And so that means that you are also not moral. So you can't be moral if you're religious. So wait, strongly disagree. Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the generally disadvantaged. I completely disagree. Yeah, that just sort of depends on this sort of random goodwill of people. Again, well, it depends what we mean by social security. I believe in basic income mostly. So, but like strongly disagree. I believe in like government support. Some people are naturally unlucky. Well, you could say that statistically, yeah. You could also, but like it would just be like there isn't such a thing as luck. Like it just things happen. So like strongly disagree. It's important that my child's schooling still really does value. Like hell, nope. It's important that it does not. Finally, look at sex. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. I remember Ben Shapiro is like strongly agree. He actually was like virgin until marriage. Well, I am too so far. Strongly disagree. Again, like that's ridiculous. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Yeah, I don't see why there should be any difference. What's important is just to have like more like a good, caring and stable relationship. So, strongly agree. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for an adult population. Yeah, strongly agree. Don't have much. Again, it just you should be able to do whatever you want. Yeah. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Again, yep. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Yeah. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. No, people are still completely, like, stuck up. So, now let's see where we stand. Anybody watching me? Nope. Nobody is watching me. So this is taking a whole hour almost. Now let's see where you stand. About the political compass. Okay, so we've already seen this. North Korea, China, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Uruguay, Switzerland. See, I agree with Switzerland just being far right like that. It's I mean, there's like pretty, like there's pretty, there's unemployment benefits that are pretty good. There's got good retirement benefits. There's like good access to healthcare. And the thing is, if you consider Switzerland like to the right like that, then my economic policy would be there, right about there too, you know, because I actually advocate for like 0% business tax, complete free trade, no minimum wage, no like government power for unions, like government given power to unions. Um, I just believe that having basic income, maximum income, and that's like the only sort of main redistributive policy that I have. Um, the rest would be like right wing. So I would be right around there. Okay, so I'm a bit closer to the libertarian and a bit less left, so I'm a bit further down towards libertarian and a bit less to the left than I was last time. Even though actually my ideology hasn't changed, but just based on my answers. So that's, I mean, that makes sense, but really just a silly test.